Tennessee has a commitment. So what do we got, Caleb Calhoun?
Yes, Tennessee has added. It's funny because we are talking about offensive linemen, and Tennessee has added a huge pickup from Sugar Land, Texas. Bennett Warren, 6'7" 330 pounds, offensive tackle. Dave, we've talked for a while that these are the type of guys Josh Heupel needs to win battles against. He needs to win battles for and needs to get. And he beat out Michigan for this guy out of Texas. This is, I mean, you can't undersell this type of pickup for Tennessee, given what we said Heupel needs to be able to do, right?
No, and I wrote a column last week how get excited about the class that Tennessee has put together, but they're not winning the big time battles on the offensive line. And I guess in response, Josh Heupel said, "Well, I'm going to go pick one up to go ahead and tell Dave that he's dead wrong." But tell us more about Bennett.
Yes, so he's 6'7", 300 pounds. Jaru's done a lot of great writing on him, covering him throughout the week. Everything seemed like he was going to go to, I believe, Michigan earlier in the week, last week, but then people started changing their 247 Sports crystal balls and flipped it to him trending to Tennessee over the weekend. So I don't know what happened over the weekend that changed things, but this is, again, 6'6", 6'7.5", 330 pounds, coming out of Texas. Some people, Rivals, Dave, has him listed at 6'8". And so he's going to play tackle for Tennessee. This is look, if Gerald Mincey doesn't work out in 20 and has to come back in 2024, this is the type of guy you could see taking a starting job as a freshman on the line, which, as you know, it's easier to take a starting job at tackle than guard.
Now, Tennessee landed him, and he's a 4-star prospect. But when you look at his list of Brigham Young, Colorado State, Florida, and Florida State, it's not a wow me list. I mean, Florida State's hot. Florida is Florida. But when you look at his list of other close suitors, does that concern you at all?
No, because Michigan, Texas A&M, and Oklahoma were also targeting him pretty heavily too. And even though Texas A&M is a disaster of a program, they're still in the recruiting battles with everybody because their NIL initiative is insane. And so they're in Texas. So they're actually okay. It seemed like, according to reports, it seemed like they kind of started to pull ahead in June, and that's when people started to flip their crystal balls. But, just to think about it, I mean, this comes on Tennessee landing Max Anderson, another offensive tackle from Texas, guard William Satterwhite. So their offensive line class all of a sudden looks better than it did about a month ago, and they now are number 9 in 247 Sports Composite behind Georgia and Florida. I still maintain they're not done. They've got a lot of other people they're targeting, but there's no sugarcoating it for a Sugarland guy from Sugarland, Texas. No sugarcoating it. I think he's a really, really, really big pickup. And again, there's a little bit of more of a development that's required of him than you see from other guys. But again, 6'7", 330, reportedly very athletic. I mean, that you can't teach those things.
No, you can't. And you would think he would be a natural tackle at that size. And you had Michigan coming at him really hard. You mentioned Texas A&M as well, even though they weren't technically in his final list of suitors. So this, let's give credit, being reported by Steve Wiltfong. And the thing that I like about Bennett or Warren is that he looked around at a bunch of schools, and I think it looks like he made a business decision. He didn't just get wowed and go with school X. I mean, I think when you look at Brigham Young, when you look at some other schools that he looked at, he didn't get wowed by the recruiting process. And I think that most oftentimes, other than quarterback, Bennett, that offensive linemen are the smartest guys in the group. So with Bennett Warren, I think you're going to get a really smart young man. And I think that you're also going to get, he went to private school, and I think you're going to get more along the lines of just a natural tackle. I think John Campbell's an example of that too. But it seems like Tennessee has had a lot of guys that could play guard or tackle, whereas now they're maybe picking guys that they know where they're going to play when they get to college. But this is a monster pickup, a 4-star prospect. You look at more of a Bennett and his Warren and his breakdown. And he is just one of the top offensive line prospects in the nation. There's no arguing that. He's 143 overall prospect nationally. He's the 25th prospect in Texas, which is really good. And then he's the 8th best offensive tackle in the nation. Now, listen, guys, I've told you the one potential Achilles heel for Tennessee right now in their growth is next year when they potentially have to rebuild an offensive line that had some Pruitt guys on, and not Pruitt if you want to, but he was good at evaluating talent, and he also liked mean streaks, which he got, particularly with Cooper Mays. And then you've got Bennett Warren, who I don't know if he has a mean streak or not, but that's a guy you went out and targeted and got. And I think it's just a monstrous get by Tennessee.
Yes, and he is, depending on which service you go to, he actually is considered as high as potentially as the number one offensive tackle in the state of Texas. It's one or two. 247 Sports generic has him number one. 247 Sports Composite has him number two in the state of Texas, behind Blake Ivy, who is from League City, who's training the Texas A&M. But either way, a top two offensive tackle in the state of Texas is, that's really, really good. That's exactly the type of offensive lineman you need.
I don't know if this is updated or not, but to me, I'm looking at the 247 Sports, and I've got him number 5 offensive tackle and the composite number 8.
So well, that's nationally. I'm saying nationally. In the state of Texas. Yeah, in the state of Texas, number 2 offensive tackle and number 1 overall. Now, Rivals, I'm pulling up Rivals right now, and Rivals has him the number 16 offensive tackle, but Rivals names everybody a tackle on the line, so they're a lot less specific. But they have him the number 44 player in Texas, so a little bit lower with Rivals. And if you were going to go to On3, which I do take into account now and some value, I believe he's the number 29 ranked offensive tackle or number 29 ranked player in Texas, number 13 ranked offensive tackle. But again, 247 Sports Composite, which takes all these things together, has him at as the second best offensive tackle in Texas and a top 10 offensive tackle nationally.
Yep. Tough not to get excited by him. And you said that moved them from 10 to 9 in the national rankings?
Yes, but I'm looking at it now, and I think it might move them higher because I don't believe these national rankings are fully updated, actually. So I think they might have been 9 before the day started.
They were 10 when I wrote about that they needed big guys last week.
Right. But they could have moved up because another team lost a decommitment.
They're supposed to be instantaneous, but you often wonder if it takes.
See, they're already up to 8 now. When I just told you they're 9, I see them now at 8. Funny enough.
So maybe we just stay on the air and they get it to number 1 by the end of the day, because we're the good luck charm.
Exactly.
All right, so Tennessee picks up a big one out of Sugar Land, Texas. It is Bennett Warren, and that's the type of guy that Tennessee has to win those battles. They have to get 4 or 5 of those a year, because only half are going to pan out for whatever reason. And those are the numbers that Georgia's getting. They're getting 4, 5, or 6 4-star or better a year. And if you want to be able to man up and push people around, and Tennessee does, but despite all the throwing the football around, they want to push people around as well. So this is the type of guy to do it. I don't think there's any question about that. So Bennett Warren, huge, huge pickup for the Vols. No question about it.